Good morning. This is Commissioner Bursey. Can you hear me?
Or sending me at the house. Got more milk if I would have.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Tina, this is Commissioner Bursey. I had to unjoin for a minute. Am I still muted?
We can hear you, Ann.
I can hear you too. Thank you.
Okay.
Me too. They should be trying right now.
It looks like all the commissioners.
What?
It looks like all the commissioners.
We don't see everybody.
Francine might have it. She's got a sit.
At some point, yeah, I would do at some point.
Yeah, if the whole thing went down.
You don't know who's lying. Or if they're still doing
That's in Vegas. Okay.
I can't anyway.
I wish that you were always.
We're not quite ready yet.
Okay, let me know.
Good morning. Can you guys hear from Las Vegas?
Good morning.
You said
Yes.
three, and I'm
Okay,
just
perfect.
sort of-
Can you guys
Good
hear
morning.
us?
Which is how I am.
Good.
I'm on Zoom.
Oh, that's funny.
Take the time. I was a secretary. Yeah, but I don't wear shoes either.
Good morning. I just want to make sure you can see me. Can you?
We can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay, did you say we were ready? Good morning. This is the time and place for the Nevada Tax Commission hearing. Today is January 23rd, 2023. Time is approximately 9:06. Dana, could you call roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Lippman,
Present.
Commissioner Bursey,
Present.
Commissioner Rotifer,
Present.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Byram,
I'm here.
Commissioner Witt,
Here.
and Chairman Wren.
I'm here. Thank you very much. So first of all, on our agenda, we have the public comment. Do we have any public comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, do we have any public comment on Zoom?
No public comment on Zoom.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment here in Reno? Perfect. Director Hughes, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you like to swear in the parties, please?
Yes. For those of you testifying today, will you please stand and raise your right hand to take the oath? For those of you who plan to testify today, do you promise that your testimony during these proceedings will be truthful? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So next thing on the agenda is minutes. Do we have any corrections, additions, or motions?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one item. It looks like on page 3 of the minutes under item 3C1, it's, I don't see where the vote is recorded.
I recall it was approved and it was unanimous, but it,
I believe that's correct, so.
I will double check. This is Tina Catalano.
Okay,
And,
if that is in the case, let's make accept a motion to accept it, given
So moved.
that is, yeah, that's what happened in this one. We can put it back on the agenda. I have a motion, a second. Do I have a second?
Second. Commissioner Roder.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
so our motion is to approve the minutes with the addition of noting that that was approved if it
Correct.
was. Okay,
Correct.
all right.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, consent calendar. Do we need to have anything pulled?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Commissioner Brown, I'd like to pull item 3E2.
Mr. Chairman,
wait a minute. Is that Ardella?
Correct.
Okay, good. I was going to pull that too. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, it's Commissioner Byram. I'd like to pull item 3B3, biomedical instruments.
Okay, anything else?
Chairman, it's Commissioner Lippman. I'd like to pull item 3D3. 3D as in dog 3. Mr. Adam Malice.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anything else? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda beside those items.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Byram. I would move to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of items 3B3, 3D2, and 3D3.
Second.
Wait, I'm sorry. I need to pull one too. I need to pull C6.
Mr. Chairman, I would update my motion to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of items 3B3, 3C6, 3D2, and 3D3.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Very good. Any discussion? Seeing that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go to 3B3.
On the consent calendar file that's 182 pages long, on page 24, it shows that tax 255632 plus penalty and interest, and it shows 255632 has been paid. And then on page 26, at the bottom of the bullet points, it says a check for $3,663.54 was the total liability excluding interest and penalties was paid. So I just wanted a clarification of why, or an understanding of why the check that was sent does not match the amount that the final amount says it was paid.
Okay.
Kathy Bright, Revenue Officer for the Department of Taxation. For biomedical instruments, they actually had a bond demand that was due. So the check that they sent in with their Nevada business registration was for the bond that we applied towards their account. And then once they got all their returns filed, then they paid their additional what the sales tax was due.
Okay, so then what's summarized on here is correct, that the 2556.
Yes, it is correct.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve item 3B3 biomedical instruments.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Okay, a motion and a second for the discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And could you please state your name? Karen E. Bright. Uh-huh.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us down to 3C6. Which I pulled because I believe Mixley has a addition or correction on that.
Good morning. My name is Mixley Arambula for the department. I would like to present testimony for F21 Co-op. Carmen Zen, the tax manager, requested a waiver of penalty and interest for the sales and use tax period ending February 29th of 2020 through March 31st of 2020. It should be noted the numbers were transposed on the department's memo. The correct amount to waive, if the recommendation is approved, is a total of $16,538.17. The debt is comprised of $14,764.16 penalty and $1,774.01 interest. The taxpayer has the assessed penalty and interest, let me start over. The taxpayer has paid the assessed penalty and interest in full. Approval of the waiver would result in a credit of $16,538.17. Mrs. Sen's reason for the request is due to the delay in registration caused by COVID-19 and the staffing shortages. In addition, the business being heavily impacted by the state shutdown and the stay-at-home orders. The department noticed Ms. Zen only checked the penalty box of the initial request. However, in the body of her written request, she mentions both penalties and interest. Based on the research, the investigation, and the supporting documents, also taking into consideration the statutes, the department has determined that it is fair to review the interest as part of this request. Therefore, the assessed penalties and interest doesn't use tax period of February 29th of 2020 through March 31st of 2020 was the result of circumstances beyond the control of the taxpayer. The taxpayer has remained compliant with all the filing requirements since the two stated periods that were filed late and paid late. Therefore, the department recommends approval of the taxpayer's request to waive the penalties and interest. I will be happy to answer any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, everything is the same except for the transposed numbers, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Commissioner Lippman, just for clarification, the taxpayer paid the correct amount and there's just a transposition on the memo that was recorded, but the taxpayer paid in full the correct amount.
Ixalia Arambula for the record. That is correct, Commissioner. The exact amount has been paid. The numbers were transposed. We switched a couple of numbers there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Commissioner Witt, move to approve item C6 with the correction.
Commissioner Bursey seconds.
Okay, motion and a second for the discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So on the next one, Bixley had a correction. Should I have her address that before your questions or?
What do you prefer?
Okay, so the next item pulled was 3D2, Ardella Corson and Mixley. I believe you had something you wanted to correct on that also.
Yes, I am. 1 second, Commissioner. I apologize. I stated Commissioner. It's Chairman Wren. I apologize for that.
That's okay. I made everybody chairman last time I was here, so makes it easier.
Thank you for that. Mixley Arambula for the record. On Ardelia Corson, I also do have a brief that I would like to present for her. This is for an offer in compromise. Ms. Ardelia Corson, sole proprietor, has submitted an offer in compromise for debts of a Flower by Donka and Flower by Donka Inc. The business closed in February of 2021 due to the economic downturn that resulted from the pandemic. The offer is to pay a combined total of $1,200 in monthly installments of $100 beginning October of 2022. To date, Ms. Corson has paid a total of $400 towards the offer. The combined debt is of $82,331.99, comprised of $33,285.22 tax, $4,893.11 penalty, $44,078.66 in interest, and $75 return check fees. The interest has been calculated through through January 31st of 2023. The stated reason for the request is a doubt as to collectability. Ms. Corson is 83 years old. Her income is derived from Social Security benefits. She states she doesn't have the money or assets to pay the full amount owed to the department, and that she moved back to California, where she is currently living with her ex-husband. He does not charge her rent in exchange for cooking and cleaning. The documentation submitted supports the reason for the request, and an increase in the offer would cause undue hardship. Therefore, the department recommends that the commission accept the offer for the following multiple sales and use tax periods ending June 30th of 2006 through October 31st of 2014. Also, on the finalized audit deficiency determination for sales and use tax periods June 1st of 2010 through March 31st of 2013, a business license fee period ending October 31st of 2008, and a return check fee for periods ending October 31st of 2007, October 31st of 2011, and October 31st of 2016, along with modified business tax, best information available, determination based on gross wages to the Employment Security Division for periods ending June 3rd of 2005 through December 31st of 2006. I will be more than happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As was mentioned, the taxpayer is 83 years old. The total monthly income from Social Security of the taxpayer is $652. I would propose that we forgive the remaining debt. The taxpayer is paid $400 of the $1,200, so we're only talking about $800. And it just seems on a $652 monthly income to ask for $100 seems excessive to me.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I second. Commissioner Byram?
I just think to make sure that that covers the whole thing. Sorry, I believe it does. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say
Commissioner
aye.
Lippman, is the taxpayer present,
I don't believe
online
so.
or otherwise?
Mixed Arambula, for the record, no, the taxpayer is not present in the Las Vegas office or online.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment also,
Sure.
Commissioner Byram? How the state handled it is absolutely correct. They did everything that they're required to do and came up with that, negotiated in good faith and began collecting it. So it isn't to say that that there's anything wrong with what it was done and how it was presented, just that we do have some discretion in matters like this. And that is why we're wanting to waive the remaining balance for this 82-year-old woman.
Perfect, I agree.
And I'll just add that I would like to say to the taxpayer, if she were present, and I understand why she's not, that we appreciate her negotiating and wanting to do her best to meet her Nevada tax obligation. So I appreciate that. And I second what Commissioner Byram said. The department did exactly what it's supposed to do. And I support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, that takes us down to 3D3, Adam Malice. I forgot who pulled it. I apologize.
You did.
Commissioner Lippman.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't confuse me.
Good morning. Is that the taxpayer in Las Vegas?
That is correct, Commissioner. Mr. Adam.
Mr. Adam Mollis, I just wanted to give you some good news and some clarification. Your offer in compromise was for 240 payments of $450 for a total liability of $103,000. However, your math was off. And so the department correctly ascertained or accepted your offer for $450. But the good news is when we divide that into 103,000, that's only about 229 payments. So just the math is, your math was incorrect. So it saves you about 10 payments, which is about $5,000. But the one clarification, the offer was to start the payments in 30 days versus your offer of 90 days. So I just want to clarify that. I'm supporting the offer in compromise, but just wanted to clarify it's for $450 a month, which is a total offer of 103,000, just about 229 payments. And that starts in 30 days post our approval. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the department agrees.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, I have a brief prepared if you are willing to hear it.
I think we're willing to hear it, but brief is the operative word.
Thank you. This morning, Mr. Adam Malas, manager and sole owner, has submitted an offer in compromise for the debt of A&E Auto Wholesale LLC, and the business closed March of 2017. The offer As you stated, it's $103,000 in monthly installments of the $450, beginning within 30 days of the approval. The total debt is $281,468.58, comprised of $165,704.71 in tax, $24,587.32 in penalty, and $91,161.55 in interest. The interest is calculated through January 31st of 2023. The reason for the request is doubt as to collectability. Mr. Mala states he does not have the money or the assets to pay the debt in full. Mr. Mala's original offer was of $15,000. Through the negotiations, Mr. Mala's increased his offer to the current offered amount of $103,000, which equals to the total tax owing that is secured by personal liens along with partial interest. The personal lien will remain in place, which will ensure the department will receive the full offered amount should Mr. Mala sell or refinance the property as he owns in Clark County. It should be noted that the approval of the offer will allow for the department to begin receiving payments towards the outstanding debt, which has not occurred to date. The department has considered the time and effort already afforded to this account as well as future cost in pursuing collection of the debt in making this recommendation. Therefore, the department recommends that the Nevada Tax Commission accept the offer due to the reason of doubt as to collectability for the sales and use tax periods ending June 30th of 2016 through January 31st of 2017, and finalize sales and use tax deficiency determination for the period February 1st of 2017 through March 31st of 2017. And I am happy to answer any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any further questions? No?
Yep, Commissioner Lippman moves to approve the offer and compromise item 3D3 on our agenda for Mr. Adam Mollis.
Commissioner Bursey, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for the discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much. So that ends our consent calendar. So if anybody is online or in Reno or Las Vegas, and your cases were under the consent calendar, they have been completed as presented. So, okay, Shelley, now that I've done half your job, I'll turn it back over to you. I apologize.
No problem. All right, so we will be moving on to item 4 on the agenda, Local Government Services Division. Item 4A is consideration of the administrative law judge's recommended decision regarding an appeal for property tax abatement pursuant to NRS 361.4734. The item under that agenda item is Carl F. and Rebecca M. Hayford for possible action.
Okay, thank you very much. So we had this on our agenda last time, and I asked Rosalie Bordelove to give us some guidance on what we could and couldn't do in this case, which I would like now if we could get it, please.
Understand Rosalie is available by phone.
Chairman Wren, Rosalie Bordelove is on the phone and she's just unmuting now.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Rosalie Bordelove for the record. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. Go ahead.
So in researching the issue and viewing some of the past opinions of the commission, I don't have the statutes in front of me, so if you'd like to wait, I'll be there in about 10-15 minutes, but I can let you know that based on the statute, since what you're reviewing is an appeal of the assessor's determination, and the assessor went back 1 year and corrected that tax roll. The ALJ found that where good cause is shown, the commission can go back as far as any other statutory authority could do, effectively what the county could do, which is 3 years. But the ALJ did not find good cause, and so the ALJ upheld the assessor's determination. If you determine that there's good cause, you could go back that same 3 years, but the precedent of the commission has always been that it is limited to the 3-year period that is the longest period that any entity can go back per statute.
Okay, perfect. And that's how I remembered it also. So I appreciate the clarification on the law.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Haber, you can come up so the original year, base year would have been 2015, and we can't go back that far.
Sure.
We did find that there was enough reason to go back. So our questions that we left you with were, I think, 2 questions. One, how far does the statute allow us to go back? To reset your base year. You're not asking for a refund, you're asking for the base year to be reset, which then it compounds over time with percentages. So the second question was what can be done with their computer system constraints. So you've kind of got, there's kind of 2 things. So what year would be 3 years ago based on when he peeled 22, 23?
He appealed 2021-22.
21, 22. So that year plus
Okay,
2.
Can we get you to identify yourselves for the record, please?
I'll pause it.
Carl Hayford.
I'm Laura Zimmer with the Washoe County Assessor's Office.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
So the year that it could go back to is 21 plus 20 and 19. So it would be 19, or would it be 21 plus 3 years beyond that? I think 21 counts as the 1 year.
I do too. That's my understanding.
And then 2019. So
Yes.
Can you go back to 2019, reset the base year value? Or if your system has constraints, can you make an adjustment to give it the equivalent for going forward?
So the Assessor's Office can update our tax cap status based on the decision made by this commission. I did speak with the Chief Deputy Treasurer because they do the tax calculation. And she said that she would have to just recalculate each of those years. She can't just reset a base year.
Okay. But you can accommodate the equivalent of having the base year reset by recalculating, like an override calculation or outside of the system.
She would just recalculate each of those tax years.
Okay.
The tax bill for those tax years if it was determined that
Okay.
there was good cause.
So effectively going forward from 2021, 22, going forward, it would be the equivalent as if his base year would have been adjusted to the 3% cap in 19?
Yes, they would recalculate each of those years. They cannot not issue a refund. They would issue a refund for each of those years. And the tax bill has already been recalculated for 21, 22, and the taxes for 22, 23 were also calculated with a 3% tax cap.
Excellent. Okay.
So I'm not sure that answers the question. His bases would start in 2018. And so you would make sure it went forward with the 3% from that, whatever that basis was.
The year 1819, the valuation year 1819.
Yes, if it's approved to change the tax cap to the 3% cap back to 18, they would calculate it starting in 18.
Right, and your assessment would go forward from that. And then the treasurer will either make a refund or credit, and that's between the treasurer and the taxpayer.
The treasurer would recalculate based on that tax cap.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's exactly what we had requested.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Unless there's other questions,
Any other questions?
This is Commissioner Brown. It's not a question. I would just say, similar to the item that we forgave the debt on, I'm not suggesting that the assessor's office did anything incorrectly or anything wrong. I just think this is a special circumstance. The taxpayer, did have some documentation that they attempted to make the election online, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So I'm going to support this as well, but I didn't want it to reflect negatively on the assessor's office, is my point.
Agree.
Commissioner Lippman, I'll second that because when you read the brief, the Washoe County really does make Herculean efforts to try to get the attention of property taxpayers to recognize how their property taxes are computed. And I would say that this is really an exceptional outlier. And to some extent, that's why the commission exists. So thank you for that, because we obviously, Washoe County cannot go and have a one-on-one discussion with every property taxpayer. So thank you.
Washoe County would agree.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion. Commissioner Byram?
Yes.
I would move to, in the Carl F. and Rebecca Hefford case, I would move to adjust the decision that was made by the administrative law judge such that we do allow an adjustment back to the 2018-2019 valuation year, as we've discussed, that reflects the change to the residence of being a private residence and a 3% cap qualified residence.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Director Hughes.
The next item on the agenda is item 4B, consideration for approval of an appointment to the Appraiser Certification Board. The item on this agenda item is Richard Yule, and we have Jeff Mitchell for the department.
Good morning, Chairman. Jeff Mitchell for the record, along with Richard Yule. It is with my pleasure that I would like to recommend Mr. Yule to be appointed to the Appraiser Certification Board. Per statute, the Appraiser Certification Board is comprised of 6 members, 3 of which who are appointed by the Nevada Assessors Association, and 3 of which who are appointed by the Nevada Tax Commission. Mr. Yule has been with the department for a long time. Is that fair? He is the expert that we go to in centrally assessed property. He has been a certified appraiser with the department and knows the statutes and regulations forwards and backwards. And so with that, it would be a high recommendation for the department to appoint Mr. Yule.
Okay.
Turn it over to you and Mr. Yule.
Perfect. The answer is no. Highly qualified. I think what I would like, I know exactly what your commission does. I'm not sure the rest of the commissioners do. So if you, Mr. Mitchell, just want to give us a real brief explanation of that body, just to know they have a better idea why we're appointing him.
The commission, what I do or what
Appraisal Certification Board.
Yeah, what your board does.
The board pretty much oversees and recommends procedures and tests and classes and things to keep the assessment community up to date and keep their certifications as qualified by the IRS. So everybody needs continuing education, whether it's in law or whether it's in accounting or it's appraisal. And this is pretty much the board that governs everything at the assessor's level. What I do at the department is kind of like being the assessor to the giant corporations that do business in the state. AT&T used to be with me. Delta Airlines, the railroads, things like that. So we also need continuing education to maintain our certifications. And as the board goes, so goes the assessment community. Be a good idea to be up on all the rules and regulations and maybe have an eye towards what some of the other entities are doing.
Perfect, yeah. That's really what I wanted because it's a very important board. As Fraser, I understand it very well, but kind of simplifies it. It also helps keep all 17 counties doing what all 17 counties are doing right at the same time.
It really helps the Board of Equalization too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay.
Well, for the record, my name is Richard Ewell.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Byram. I've known Richard Ewell for many years. We trompled around on mining properties together doing appraisal work back in the 90s. And he did net proceeds work as well as mining property tax work. So I've known him for a lot of years, and he escaped the mining group and went into utilities. So I haven't seen him for probably a couple decades. But anyway, I would highly support this recommendation. I would move to approve it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Brown, since Mr. Ewell mentioned AT&T, that's my employer, and I would just disclose that AT&T is no longer centrally assessed, and I have no conflict, but I wanted to disclose that.
Perfect.
And it's Ewell, right?
Ewell, yes.
That's what I thought.
Do I have a second?
Second. Commissioner Witt.
Thank you very much. I have a motion, a second, further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
Okay, Director Hughes.
The next item on the agenda is item 5, the Compliance Division. Item 5A, the taxpayer's appeal of the administrative law judge's decision pursuant to NRS 360.245 and NAC 360.175. The first item under this agenda item is Charisma Lounge LLC. And for the department, we have Natasha Gabriel, Deputy Attorney General. I believe she may be in the Las Vegas office.
I'm here.
Okay. So if you would identify yourselves and this is a taxpayer's appeal, so we'll let the taxpayer go first.
Hello, my name is Teresa Means, bar number 13373, and I'm representing the taxpayer, Charisma Lounge LLC.
And my name is Natasha Gabriel, Deputy Attorney General on behalf of the department, last name Gebrael. And Attorney Maines appeared today, and she was just retained. She informed me that she was just retained by taxpayer on Friday and went ahead and emailed me a retainer agreement. The records of the department indicate a withdrawal of another attorney, and taxpayer was originally going to appear in pro se. The department has no objection to Attorney Maines' appearance.
Okay, so are you prepared to go forward today?
Yes, I wanted to point out the petitioner's brief is submitted, and the matter is fully briefed, and the petitioner is relying solely on all the tax department's exhibits, and I believe that is Bates 00001 to, I believe, close to 500. I'm not exactly sure the last Bate. A few of the arguments I wanted to point out, but I can answer any questions as it is fully briefed.
Okay. All right, Natasha, you want to give us the rundown then?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner, Chairman, and Commissioners. I'll give a brief factual background. This matter stems from the operation of a restaurant and a bar and a hookah lounge in Las Vegas. That business did close as of May 2017 permanently. When there was information given to the department that the business was going to be sold, the department conducted an audit as the owner of this business was informed, as the record indicates, that there were outstanding tax liabilities. Upon audit, there was a a deficiency noted for underreported sales. The best information that the department was given, which was 12 months of consistent data, the profit and loss statements. As the administrative law judge noted in the record, all the other documents given to the department had inconsistencies and were unable to be corroborated with each other. So the best information were the profit and loss statements. The department conducted its deficiency determination based on what it had before them, and in fact, looked beyond what the taxpayer provided for records and conducted its own investigation so that it could find in taxpayers' favor. So there were closures regarding remodels and renovations of this business. The department utilized what it could to zero out those deficiencies for taxpayer and lower that deficiency for them a little bit. It did what it could with what it had before it, and the administrative law judge noted this in her final decision as well as the ultimate trier of fact, and determined that it was the profit and loss statements that did provide the best consistent data. She did overturn about 4 months of a deficiency, and the department did not challenge that, and on February 18th, 2021, reduced the deficiency in accordance with the administrative law judge's decision. And that's pretty much a brief factual scenario of this matter. If the commission has any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the Taxpayers Council or the state?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Commissioner Byram, I would like to ask the Taxpayers Council what the $85,000 represents. It is noted, let's say, I'm on page 310 of 880-page document, and it said the assets purchased from FITR of $85,000. I believe that was found on the federal tax return as the depreciable assets as they were acquired, yet the business was purchased for $60,000. And so I'd like to know what that represents. I mean, was a purchase price allocation done? And how did you end up with $85,000 out of a $60,000 purchase?
Thank you for that question, by the way. My understanding of the $85,000 on the federal tax was the assets purchased, but they were not for the purchase. The business was not valued and then broken down with what was purchased as far as like the assets all the way down to goodwill. And that was noted, I believe, on the, I don't know where it was noted on the findings of facts, that there was no backup or explanation of the breakdown. That $85,000 was reported as the assets going down the depreciation line. So that was put on the federal income tax, as you just said. But as far as the taxability of that, as far as the sales tax, there's a disagreement on that because there was no sales tax paid on that. So that's where the disagreement on that being a baseline for sales and use tax comes from. There's no, it's almost like it's an arbitrary number, and I don't know offhand. I've seen the purchase agreement, and it's almost just broken down. And I don't think that the department, gave, I don't see it in the record, and I don't know if this is the place to argue that, beyond what was pointed out in the brief, but it's not, the Charisma was not given an opportunity to, value or break that down and present how that number would, how that sales number and how those assets on the asset purchase agreement was provided. And So to answer your question, it's on the record that that number came from the from the tax return. And I believe it's on 2015 and 2016 tax returns. So I don't know why it wasn't depreciated further in 2016, but that's where that number came from. And I believe that that was on the asset purchase agreement.
Okay, that didn't answer my question, but when a business acquires another business in its entirety, there isn't sales and use tax applied to that. That's an occasional sale, buying a business. However, the purchasing business generally will get a tax clearance letter, which this one did not. And in addition, they would do a purchase price allocation because you need a purchase price allocation to set up your books and records and then to file corresponding tax returns, federal tax returns. So out of a $60,000 purchase, you would have goodwill. You're using the same name, same location, employees or contracts in place. You have a number of things that would be intangibles. And some subset of $60,000 is going to be the dollar amount to be expected on the federal tax return for depreciable assets. So I think this company, which kept very poor records and required the department to do major estimating in order to come up with the taxable amount, the company wanted the benefit of having a lot of depreciation to claim on their federal tax returns, but no sales tax to pay on their assets. And the problem with that is it clearly is a made-up number that had to be added to the sales tax because there's nothing to back up where that number came from. And the company could have easily done that upon purchase and really was required to do that and failed to do so. So I just think that this is the perfect example of why books and records need to be kept and maintained in order to be audited and to have justification behind numbers, because this was just a really, really difficult one and a difficult one to audit. But I think the state did an excellent job coming up with an estimate. And then, as Ms. Gabriel said, adjusting those estimates to in the best light for the taxpayer that they possibly could to come up with the decision. Those are my 2 cents. Your answer didn't answer the question.
I apologize that your explanation does make sense, and I do agree with you as far as the paperwork and the due diligence that does need to be done prior to purchasing a business. On the other hand, with this taxpayer, there is evidence here of a taxpayer not being educated or experienced on that level, as an accountant would be, or an actual CPA, or even a forensic accountant. Going back to the due diligence that should have been done, and I do agree with you, and I believe, when the period of time that the prior owner did attempt to get a new, cancel his the sales permit or the sales tax permit, and that amounts that period of time from 2013 to, I believe, let's first argument. Commissioner's indulgence, I apologize. On the brief where the argument of the prior owner attempted to cancel, or he neglected to check a box and about, on the form and a clearance certificate was never issued. And according to the findings of fact, this issue is not ripe for decision. And it's not briefed, but I do have a question about that. If the taxpayer's not asking for that amount, there's an argument of whether that amount should even be assessed, the taxable measure of that period of time, because the prior owner, it appears there's a Scribner's error. He didn't check a box when and I say he, that entity or that owner, the previous owner didn't do the proper paperwork. So it just seems, unfair for the taxpayer to, when it's clear he didn't check a box and the clearance letter for that period of time, now to be assessed for that, that taxable measure of 176,608.25. It just seems like, I think it is ripe for a decision. It's not, I don't think it is a contingent future event, because you're assessing the amount now that's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? That's taxpayers liable for. So that's just the argument on that. And I bring that up only because that also applies to the period of the due diligence that it's on the record was not done properly, which, that's one of the weaknesses of the taxpayer's position on that, so.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question now for the state.
Okay.
How was the state able to reach back to November 2013 for the audit?
Thank you, Commissioner. The reason that November, pardon me, I'm just looking here for the specific fact. November 13 through October 2014 were considered because those returns were not filed until April of 2015. And statute allows when the returns are filed late for them to be considered in an audit, so long as it's 3 years.
3 years from date of payment or filing, final, whatever's later?
Yep. Yes.
Correct? Okay. All right. That sums up my questions.
Commissioner Byram, this is Commissioner Lippman. Thank you for asking all those questions that hopefully my accounting and finance and Fed tax students took to heart, because it's critical for companies to have books and records, and it really is the responsibility of the company, as Attorney Gabriel pointed out in her brief. They bear the burden of proof. And I'm sorry that counsel was just appointed on Friday, but this matter has been around for an extensive period of time, and the company has had, prior counsel and ample time to go before the Department of Tax worked significantly with this business, and then it was appealed to the ALJ. And so the burden is on the taxpayer, and I would agree with the department and the ALJ that the taxpayer did not carry their burden of proof, and the ALJ really bent over backwards to try to accommodate the fact that the company didn't have books and records, and eliminated several months of potential liability. So I'm in full support of the ALJ's decision, and due diligence matters for a buyer, for a seller, and Commissioner Byram is spot on when she describes that these allocations are on the taxpayer. And you can't have it both ways. You can't have an a higher value for depreciation purposes and a lower value for sales tax purposes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? A motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Byram. I would move to uphold the Department of Taxation's Administrative Law Judge decision in the case of Charisma Lounge LLC.
Commissioner Witt.
Lippman seconds it.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Director Hughes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is number 2 under item 5A, which is Broad Acres Swap Meet. And again, we have Sasha Gabriel, Deputy Attorney General for the department.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, this is a taxpayer appeal, so if I could have you identify yourself and we'll let the taxpayer go first.
Yeah, this is Rick Campbell with the law firm of Kemfer Kroll representing Broad Acres today. With me also is Greg Dan sitting behind me, the owner of the market, Broad Acres Market.
Okay, go right ahead, sir.
I think some background is in order here, just so we have a clear picture of what we're dealing with. Broad Acres is an open air market in North Las Vegas. It has over 23 acres of shopping with another 22 acres of parking. There's over 1,100 vendor stalls with food, beverage, and a kids play area. The business model of Broad Acres is they rent spaces to vendors, and then the vendors are free to set their own price, sell the various, whatever items they want to sell or anything. Broad Acres also has a concession for beverage sales. In about 2007, Mr. Dans approached the tax department with an anticipated plan to build a stage area with lighting within the area of Broad Acres right after they bought it. In order to ensure that that stage area would be subject to the recently enacted LET, the live entertainment tax, he got an opinion from the tax department that a stage venue within the confines of the shopping area would be exempt from the statute under the exemption part of 368A. So based on that letter, Broad Acres started its expansion. It built the stage, it built the lighting. If you do have your exhibits in front of you from the hearing, you've got a good representation of how the area is laid out in exhibit number 5, which is a large map of the area. It shows the stage area, a very small area in the middle of the entire shopping area with all the vendor booths spread out throughout. What brings us here today is that live entertainment area. Now that live entertainment area is a pretty small area within the venue. It's got approximately capacity for 750 people to sit. And those are not theater seats, those are picnic tables because it sits right next to the food and beverage concession. There's some additional standing space on the side, but it's fairly limited to maybe 100 or so people that can stand and watch some entertainment while it's on there. Broad Acres is not a concert venue. It is a shopping mall. When it asked for that opinion letter from the tax commission, it clearly represented that it was going to continue to be a shopping mall, and the entertainment was only to enhance the experience for all the customers and to enhance the revenue for the vendors. In August of 2019, Tim Lindley, the tax department auditor, on a Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. came to the facility to do an audit. He had some alleged conversations with some of the management there. He didn't remember exactly who he talked to, but he testified both in the hearing and in his audit report that he reached the conclusion that someone at Broad Acres told him that only 10% or 40 or 50 vendors remained on a Saturday night when they have live entertainment. He then made the conclusion that in that, no, the number of vendors is there and the number of people that participate on a Saturday night, that they're there for that entertainment only. And so he said that the primary purpose of the venue then became a entertainment venue, and they're subject to the live entertainment tax. I think it's very important to note that Mr. Lindley was never there on a Saturday night, and neither was anybody else in the tax commission there on an actual Saturday night to understand exactly what was going on Saturday nights, how many vendors were actually there, how many customers were actually there. Now, as you know, under 233B, the commission is charged with making sure that there's substantial evidence to support the finding of the hearing officer. And I clearly believe that if you look at all of the evidence, we had a 3-day hearing on this with a plethora of exhibits, some live testimony from the taxpayers' employees, Mr. Dans himself, that explained in detail how that the Broadacres worked during those Saturday nights with special music. I say special music, a little higher caliber music. Mr. Dan's business plan was on Saturday nights was to have a better caliber music so that more people would come to this area on a Saturday night. As you know, on Saturdays it gets pretty hot in the fall and summer, spring here, and so he tried to draw more people to the area by having a little higher music caliber. And in addition, that benefits the vendors that are there. So if you look at the hearing officer's decision, and I want to focus on just a couple of things that are in my brief, I don't think the record in any way supports what the hearing officer found. In the first part of her opinion, the hearing officer says, the record establishes Broadacre's primary purpose during the special events was not a shopping mall and instead operates as a split venue, as a shopping mall that transformed common area into a facility that became a concert venue for its special events. The record just does not support that. If you look at the statute, which is 386A 200, it actually defines the exemption under the live entertainment tax as a live entertainment is provided in a common area of a shopping mall unless the entertainment is provided within a facility located within the mall. NRS 368-097 defines a shopping mall as any area or premise where multiple vendors assemble. And here's the operative language: for the primary purpose of selling goods or services. NAC 368A 400.6 also kind of dovetails into that primary purpose of shopping mall has to be for shopping. The hearing officer's interpretation of facts leading to the conclusion really doesn't isn't supported by the facts in a lot of different areas. She also made a statement that even though Broadacres has some shopping during the special events, shopping was secondary to the primary purpose. And that's just not true. She continues to go on. She said, one of the witnesses, Mrs. Alonso, who was the general manager of Broadacres, says that this is the quote from the hearing officer: unlike during its standard weekly hour before Broadacres does not track how many vendors remain, as Mrs. Alano explains, that no need to do so because shopping is not central to Broadacres' primary purpose during those events. That's not what Mrs. Alonso said. She said that they don't track them because most of the vendors stay after the day shift and continue to be there on the night shift when there's special entertainment. That's page 170 of the 11-2 transcript in this matter. Another important point is that both Mr. Lindley and the hearing officer relied on unsubstantiated evidence that there were very few vendors there. In fact, Mrs. Alonso, the general manager, and another employee of the venue testified that on those Saturday nights when there's a little higher caliber music, 600 to 1,000 vendors are still present. On a normal Saturday night, 600 to 1,000 are still there, but depending on the night, the weather, on a Saturday night, there are still 300 to 600 or more vendors at this site. So it's It's not that the shopping center somehow shuts down and there's a limited number of vendors. 600, 300, there's a lot of vendors there still on a Saturday night, and there's a lot of shopping. Two of the vendors actually testified in the hearing, and they both said, yes, it's a business, it's a boom to their business. They stay open because the music draws in more customers to their booths, and that's why they stay over on a Saturday night, which is the whole point of Mr. Dan's business plan, is to make sure that people are drawn to the Saturday night, not just for the music, but to be able to shop, listen to music, have food, sit at the picnic tables, and maybe listen to the music for an hour, then go to the kids area, then go shopping, have their parents take the kids while they maybe dance at the venue. The hearing officer also made a confusing finding. She said, admitting that the evidence showed that the number of patrons on Saturday night ranged from a high of 4,600 to a low of 1,700. These are patrons again. But then she went on to say there's some additional standing area adjacent to the 750 acre seats, and one unidentified photograph showing large crowds to be in excess of 700 people, 750 people. Well, again, that doesn't prove anything as to what the rest of the people were doing. While there may be some people listening, eating, listening to the music, there are a ton of other people out there shopping. When you've got that many people, 1,100 or over 2,000 people, you don't sell tickets to a music venue and only have an area that's going to accommodate 750 people. People that if they paid for a ticket just to see some entertainment, they would be pretty mad if there were no seats for that entertainment. So they're there for multiple purposes, and there was nobody from the tax commission that came on a Saturday night and interviewed people and said, "Are you here for shopping? Or are you here for music?" So there's just no evidence that contradicts the actual evidence introduced by Broadacres at the hearing. If the department wanted to have some intent, they should have had some witnesses. They could have had a vendor or a patron to say, "Yeah, I'm here for the shopping." That's just not the case. You can't have those numbers of patrons and vendors at a shopping mall and still make the conclusion that they're only there, or their primary purpose of being there is for the entertainment. It just doesn't make common sense to say that 2,000 people would come to a venue or 3,000 people would come to a venue to a small seating area when there's 300 or 600 vendors still out there. The final decision also makes a conclusion that somehow having wristbands makes the customers, somehow evidences customers' intent that he needed a wristband to get into the facility. But that wristband was just given to all the people that came in later tonight, because other customers that were there during the day could in fact stay if they wanted to. So they wanted to make sure that everybody that came in later was wristband. But the definition of the facility means any area or premises, indoor or outdoor, where live entertainment is provided and for which consideration is collected for the right or privilege of entering or having access to that area. You can't look at that definition on a standalone basis. You have to look at the exemption in 368A200. And that exemption relies, again, whether the customer is there for the primary purpose of either shopping or listening to music. So again, there's just a paucity of evidence from the department it's a 3-day hearing. A lot of testimony came through, and there was just nothing in there that indicated that the customer's intent was only to be there for the music. I'll just touch briefly on the advisory opinions. Mr. Dan's got 2 advisory opinions. The first one I mentioned, which was, I believe, Exhibit 2 to the hearing exhibits, and the second one was Exhibit 5. The first one was what they really relied on. They said we're building a entertainment venue in the middle of a shopping venue, and we're going to have live music during that time. Is the LET still going to apply? And the department's opinion responded back in 2007, 2008. Yes, they did do another opinion letter in 2015 because the LET had somewhat changed. They had removed some of the exemptions, but they kept the shopping mall exemption in there. And they, again, the department concluded that you still have that exemption. If you're gonna have live music within that area. So just to kind of summarize, I think the intent of the language of the facility was, you have a shopping mall. Broad Acres is very unique in that it's an outdoor, very large mall. But the overall intent was that if you have a shopping mall, let's take the Fashion Show Mall. If there's strolling minstrels or entertainment in the lobby, you're exempt. But if you're a facility such as a bar within the Fashion Show Mall, you have a separate door, a separate entrance. You charge patrons admission to get into that bar to listen to music. That's what the facility definition, and that was I believe, the intent of the legislature when they carved out that facility within a mall. Broad Acres simply is not a facility within the mall. It's part of the entire shopping center. It's a very small portion of the mall, entire shopping center. And the facts just don't support that somehow on those Saturday nights with some increased, better entertainment, that somehow it morphed into a entertainment venue only, and then subject to the LAT. So the fact that those letters requesting advisory opinion, there's really nothing that changed in there. I know you'll hear from the department that somehow the Broad Acres misrepresented the fact that they were going to charge more money or that they were going to advertise Saturday night performances. But that's not a change from what was requested in those opinion letters. And that's not what those opinion letters concluded, is that if you have a shopping mall with an entertainment venue that's incidental to the entire shopping experience, then you enjoy the exemption. That's what Mr. Dans was trying to accomplish. That's what he's been very good at accomplishing. And this facility pays, I think last year they paid almost $500,000, $450,000 in states of taxes, and another $250,000 to North Las Vegas. So I think these, total sum of all the evidence here clearly establishes that there's not credible evidence to support the ALJ's hearing here.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions, the taxpayer? Okay.
So many questions.
So many questions.
Someone else start.
Commissioner Witt, I just have a comment. I like to, or would like to recognize the fact that the department was sought after in the two advisory opinions. In my experience here, oftentimes that does not occur. So way to go, way to get those opinions. Those opinions could be subject to the answer to a question that I have. And my question is, in the 5,000 pages of numbers I was looking at, on the nights of the events, who drinks all that beer?
There are thousands of patrons that are mingling all throughout the facility, that are shopping, that are taking their kids to the play area, that are sitting and having a meal by where the food vendors are in the food court, maybe listening to the music for a little while and then walking through the facility and shopping. So again, that's part of the plan is to have a full range of services for these people to come on a Saturday night, to be able to eat, to be able to drink, to be able to listen to some music for a while, and then to go out and shop.
I just, in looking at that variation in the total income, it appears to me that it is the entertainment that brings the numbers of people to have those numbers of concessions go up to that point. So at some point, and then also considering perhaps the quality of the entertainment that comes in. I can't recall seeing any numbers on the cost. In other words, what these bands, the live entertainment is getting paid, but it appears that the numbers of income, mostly on concessions and beer sales, correlate to the better the band, the better the sales. So at some point, that advisory opinion tends to lose its emphasis, because I doubt, well, I'm just a farmer, and I know more about corrals and cattle, and the cattle will all tend to go where the food is or where the entertainment is. And they aren't just meandering the entire site the whole time. So I think the same thing here with people. But good answer. Thank you.
Well, can I just add to that comment? You're right. The entertainment does draw more people. It draws more people into the area so the vendors can sell more product. So Broadacres can sell more beer. But there's no proof whatsoever in the hearing transcript and the evidence submitted at the hearing that they're there solely for the entertainment. You can't have both, 3,000-4,000 people that are going to crowd into a limited seating area, picnic area with picnic tables, or half the people are looking the other way, not at the stage, to say that that's the primary driver and that's the reason that anybody bought a ticket. They bought a ticket for the whole experience, and that's what the testimony proved from the Broadacres people that actually testified at the hearing. They're just, you're right. All the sales go up. The vendor sales go up. That's not reported by Broadacres because those vendors are independent contractors. But the idea is let's get a draw to get people in so that the vendors can sell more product. I'll get more vendors because that's where Mr. Dan makes primarily the money, is renting stalls to the vendors. If he's just having an entertainment venue and no vendors are going to be there, it makes no sense. He wanted the vendors to benefit from having more people in on a Saturday night. And so that's why he got a little bit of rent. There's live entertainment at all times during Broadacres thing. It was just Saturday night. It was an kind of an incentive to get more people there. And it is to incentivize the patrons to show up in order to spend money with the vendors, in order to spend money with the various food vendors, and to spend money with the beverage concession. So you're right in a certain way that the music does draw, but it draws not for just an entertainment venue. It draws for the entire shopping center.
All right, thank you very much. Sharon?
Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Byram. I have a question for the taxpayer. This started out as a swap meet area. And then under the new ownership, it evolved into a really, looks to me like a really fun event space to go and to shop with some background music going on, and continued to evolve. And I think when the letters were requested, the advisory opinions, I wish every taxpayer would ask when they have a question that they need clarification on the way this company did. I think they acted responsibly by asking the question. I don't think that they tried to misconstrue anything by asking the question. They did. They got the instruction, and then they followed up when they saw that the legislation had changed. A lot of taxpayers aren't even paying attention to when applicable legislation changes. So I would congratulate the company on watching that, even speaking to a legislator, putting out another request to update it. Does it still apply? But do you recognize that your venue has evolved over time to where maybe the music isn't as incidental at times? Do you recognize that it is evolving and maybe has gone outside of the factual pattern that was provided when the 2015 letter was written?
I agree to it's evolved, but it's evolved because it's bigger and has more entertainment value, it has more vendors than before, it has a lot more food vendors, a lot more drink vendors. Let's flip that question a little bit. Did it evolve into a music venue? I think if Broadacres was a music venue, it would sell 1,000 tickets to the music venue and not have any vendors there. And the customers would go to listen to the music, I guess, sit there and not shop. But that's just not the case, and that's not what the evidence supports here. It has evolved in that there are a lot of vendors. There's spaces for 1,100 vendors. Between what the weather may be or the night of the week. Those vendors vary, but, the idea is to get as many vendors there. And in order to benefit those vendors, you got to have a lot of shoppers. So you got to have some additional draw. So it has evolved in a manner that has enhanced the overall entertainment value of the facility itself, not just the music. If Broad Acres wanted to do a music venue, they could have put a seating area and sold $50, $60, $70 ticket prices to have people stand in there and listen to the music the entire time. But that's not what the evidence suggests. And it's pretty clear that people are out shopping. Two of the actual vendors testified that, yeah, people are shopping. It's like the same as normal. A lot of people are walking around. They're not just at the music venue. They're shopping, going to the kids area, whatever. But
Now,
I agree that's all.
I'm sorry. Can you confirm whether or not, I'm looking at the map of the facility, do you fence off an area where the concert is in order to have it as a facility, to make a facility for the concert separate from the shopping?
No, people can stand on the sides. All the gates are, there's a plethora of gates around the shopping center.
Around the perimeter.
Yeah, around the perimeter. And people enter in through all those different gates. But no, there's no physical barrier, like a wall or a rope or, there's just no physical barrier. People can stand to the side if they don't have a place to sit at the table. But again, that area is pretty limited. It's standing room only, kind of right. If you look at the map, you can kind of see it's not a real big area. It's maybe, 15 or 20 feet on each side that they could stand there if they didn't have a seat. But like I said, they're picnic tables. They're people there eating, listening to music, dancing, whatever, and strolling around. Some of the kids probably don't like the music, or the grandparents don't like the music, and they'll take the kids and stroll around and shop. It's multi. It's very broad.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the taxpayer? Okay, I'd like to hear from the state, please.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. I think what is evident in the record here is that the ALJ actually did consider not just one specific fact, but the totality of the circumstances to determine that just on the special event operating hours, the Broad Acres area did transform into a facility within a shopping mall. So this taxpayer was not, there was no deficiency noted during its normal operating hours in which entertainment was incidental to the shopping. It was during these special event hours that it did transform. So the record indicates that around 3 p.m., before 5 p.m., before closing time, Broad Acres stopped selling normal hour admission tickets. That appears in the transcript on November 2nd. Broad Acres also indicated that the gates close, all 4 gates close at 3 p.m. so that Broad Acres is given a chance to clean around the entertainment stage area. Most of the vendors present shut down between 3 and 5 p.m. And if they come back, they will come back around 5:30. There was a lot of testimony as to how many vendors and what's the percentage of vendors. Well, for example, only 3 or 4 operators operate the rides at the children's area, but that takes up 30 vendor spaces. So we don't really know how many vendors were present as far as a specific number, but we do know that the record indicated, the ALJ noted that it was most likely less based on the evidence presented in the record. And that's because the vendors that did testify admitted that they only saw the vendors that were around their area, which was near the stage area. The record also indicates that if there are patrons who are lingering around the picnic stage area, they aren't asked to leave, but they're asked to relocate so that Broad Acres can clean. But they're also asked to pay the venue admission price. So the regular operating hours charge is about $2, and that's an average. It's between $1.50 and $2, I believe, for a ticket price. However, for those special event nights, tickets could range from $18 to $25 an hour. Broadacres also sold VIP tickets, in which was it was indicated a table service at around $300 per table. To track who's paid for the special event price admissions, they would issue wristbands to those customers. Customers who were there in the beginning and were asked to then pay for the venue admission price, they did not receive a credit towards that admission price. And that appears on the recording of proceedings, November 4th at minute 14. Security checks whether patrons have wristbands around the grandstand area, the picnic area, and the stage area. Transcript 11-2 at 173 to 74. Also recording of proceedings 11-4 at minute 20. If Broadacres finds that there are customers shopping around that do not have a wristband, they are advised that they are open in the morning for solely shopping, but for the special event, they must pay the special event admission price. Recording of proceedings 11-4 at minute 25. The tickets to the special events have a picture of the band performing and do not reference shopping. And then we get to, as far as the standing area, the administrative law judge, as the ultimate trier of fact, and as case law indicates, is they do not have to check their common sense at the door. So the administrative law judge looked at pictures as far as the entertainment area and the standing area, and she saw large crowds that appeared to be over $750 people. This is not speculation. This was her using her common sense in observing these pictures that were admitted into the record. And a vendor that admitted that she saw the vendors that were normally around the stage area also admitted that it looked dark towards the back areas. This evidence at least suggests that there weren't vendors, or it was at least dark, so that there weren't many vendors beyond the stage area. This is where the shopping becomes incidental to the entertainment. When we look at the statutory definition of facility, it's defined as any area or premises, indoor or outdoor, where live entertainment is provided and for which consideration is collected for the right or privilege of entering or having access to. Whereas shopping mall, the primary purpose, and we have to give the primary purpose language meaning so as not to render it superfluous. The primary purpose must be shopping. During normal operating hours, it was evident that Broadacres provided shopping. Primary purpose was shopping, and the live entertainment was incidental. But when we put all these facts together that the ALJ considered in the evidence, testimony, and documentary evidence, we see that the primary purpose stopped becoming shopping at around 3 to 5 p.m. on those special event nights. As far as the advisory opinions go, I think Commissioner Byram put it very eloquently when she said it evolved, the business evolved. And both advisory opinions both stated that this opinion is with the caveat that if you've omitted facts, then you can't rely on these opinions as law. You must state all the facts, and even a little bit of, as Mr. Childers testified in this case, even a little bit of facts that were omitted can change the opinion of the department, and that's fair. The department to this day and during the audit stands by both of those advisory opinions. But both of those advisory opinions describe Broadacres' normal operating hours, where shopping is primary purpose and the entertainment area is incidental to the shopping. What was omitted was all these different factors as to the special event hours. these special event hours can't be held to the same standard of the advisory opinion because they are inherently different facts. And I believe that the record established that, and that the ALJ considered the substantial weight of the evidence in totality when making her decision to carve out that during these specific hours, Broadacres, the entertainment area, Broadacres transformed its area into a facility within a shopping mall. And I think lastly, I would like to point to the record that although all the gates were open during the normal operating hours, only 2 gates reopened. And there's testimony in the record as to that only 2 gates reopened when the special event hours, when it reopened for special event hours. And so that establishes that its primary purpose was not shopping. So the gates that weren't around the stage area, that were a little bit farther off, remained closed, but the ones that were closer to the stage area reopened. And I'm available for any further questions if the commission is so inclined.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarification on my point, or my part, I'm sorry. So if I don't pay for a wristband to watch the entertainment during those special events or special times, I can't shop, correct?
You can, well, the extent of the testimony indicated that, and I believe it was the ALJ that asked the manager. She said, if there is shoppers that paid for the normal operating hours and they're around during the wristband, or they're around during the special event hours, what happens with those customers? And the testimony was that they are advised that they are open in the daytime for primarily shopping, but they would have to purchase the special event tickets to remain.
So in other words, they're asked to leave if they're not willing to pay for the special event.
I believe that can be inferred from the record, but there is no testimony that specifically stated that customers were asked to leave. In fact, they said customers aren't asked to leave, they're asked to clear the area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? The state?
Mr. Chairman?
Could I rebut a couple of those allegations?
That's it, please. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So Ms. Gabriel, in NRS 368 and quoted in the letter of the 2015 letter from Dion Contine, it says, regardless of whether consideration is collected for the right or privilege of entering those premises, and it's talking about the outdoor shopping area or premises where multiple vendors assemble. So if they're receiving a letter that says regardless of whether consideration is collected, what are you using the change in ticket prices to mean, or what should they have known based on this letter and this language if they change ticket prices at some time during the day?
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't believe it was the change of ticket prices on its own, but the totality of the circumstances. So it's not that it was, it changed and that was solely what caused the deficiency. It's that was a part of the consideration that the ALJ viewed as evidence. So it shows, it's just the change and the higher pricing of a ticket shows that, and the fact that the ticket itself does not mention shopping at all, but only mentions the band that's playing on the ticket, that's the $18 through $25. The primary purpose of the venue, where the primary purpose then becomes the entertainment and the shopping is incidental. And
I haven't seen a ticket. Does the ticket say Broadacres swap meet on it?
The ticket does appear in the record, and I can't remember if it says Broad Acres.
Can we just go ahead and read the whole record? It's 6,000 pages. Yeah, I didn't see the ticket, but if the ticket says such and such a concert at Broadacre Swap Meet means it's a shopping place. I mean, it does say both then, right? It says this is who's going to be playing.
Right.
What I'm trying to do is clarify, and I'm sorry, I can't hear your voice, but I'm trying to clarify where can we find a bright line? This is a gray area. This business has evolved. And I can see if it was entirely shut down and only open for an event, it would be very clearly would qualify if the entire facility was the facility within a shopping mall and it was only the event and maybe a couple food vendors or something, beer vendor, then it seems like it would just be clearly a live entertainment taxable event. But it's a gray area because it is a swap meet where bands play all day long. I don't know if that music is piped out to the whole area or if they can just hear it, but people enjoy this music all day long. And then it evolved and they can still shop, but now they've got a better band and it draws a larger crowd. They pay more money, which I don't think that's the big consider. It might be an indication that there's a better band and that, so it comes over and it gets into a gray area. And I just don't see where there's a bright line where you can distinguish that this is a facility. If you go into a casino and you want to go see a concert or in a shopping mall and there's a concert, you got to go down a hallway and down, and then you go into it. There's soundproof room where you can't enjoy that concert from outside of it. It's a room where you've paid extra to go in, not a 750 seat place where you sell 2,000, 3,000 tickets, where those people can't possibly go and sit close up. And I've lived in Las Vegas and it's hot and I'd pay extra to go in the evening when it's cooler. And regardless if there was a band there or not, if I could shop in the evening and enjoy a little music on the side, I would pay more for that. So I'm just not really clear on how this entity would have a bright line where that they would know when and where taxes to be applied and if not. And part of your discussion also goes into whether or not vendors have kept separate records in the evening and just like cut it off at 3:30 and start it over at 5 or cut it off at 5 and start a new set of records for the evening at 5 and have two sets of records for that day so that they could have the live entertainment set of records and then the shopping mall set of records. They wouldn't have had any reason to know that would have been requested or needed. And so by stating that they didn't keep separate record, I don't think they were on notice that they needed to. So that's where I'm struggling is this isn't real clear. And going forward, I don't think this leaves them with set instructions of when exactly they would become a facility. It is a little more than incidental probably, but I just don't see where you draw that line. Can you kind of clarify that?
Yes, Commissioner. So where we draw the line is during their special event hours, it does become a facility and it doesn't have to be indoor as NRS 368A060 indicates that the premises can be outdoors. So we don't have to enter into a room. It can be access to those premises where consideration is paid and where live entertainment is provided. Where it changes is when the shopping is no longer the primary purpose. So the way it was advertised by Broadacres is also telling that it was the live entertainment was the primary purpose and the shopping became incidental to. And the ALJ did note that when considering all of the evidence. And when this commission is reviewing that administrative decision, as far as the facts, it should review it under clear error or arbitrary abuse of discretion. So it would not be overturned unless the factual decision is not supported by substantial evidence. The substantial evidence here weighted by the ALJ indicated that the shopping during the special event hours became incidental. So there's the bright line right there. When you're advertising for the live entertainment and the shopping is no longer the primary purpose, and you don't have any indication that all of the vendors remain, or that, and it's really only the vendors that are around the premises, that becomes the bright line. The live entertainment becomes the primary premises, so you're transformed into a facility. Under the statutory definition, we have to give all of the words in the statute meaning. And so it wasn't just one thing by itself. It wasn't the ticket price by itself. It wasn't how many tickets were sold by itself, but the totality of the circumstances showed that Broad Acres didn't intend for shopping to be primary purposes for these special event nights.
Okay, and I am trying to put all of the statutory words to meaning, but I'm struggling with facility, being that it's in an open air mall and it's not fenced off. And there's no way that all those people can be there at the stage. But I think I lost what I was going with.
Let me interject a quick question when you think about that, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
So you've testified a couple times now that the ALJ has referred to the advertising to make these decisions. Can you show us that advertising so I can understand it?
Yes, I believe I have a citation. One moment. So there is Taxpayer Exhibit 5 that shows the crowds. And then the actual tickets, one moment. Department Exhibit L through M. So L and M show the advertisements.
So what beta staff number are you on?
It's
I'm sorry.
188 is the page number.
I believe Exhibit L, Rosalie Bordelot for the record, starts on page 185 of the first PDF of the support materials for this item.
So looking at these, and this is what I was looking at while you were giving your explanation a minute ago. And it's really kind of hard to read some of these, but where does it say anything about the swap meet or anything that it's specifically a concert item or, I don't see anything in our record that indicates who, why, where, and when any of this is.
Right, so it's just a Broad Acres Marketplace, which I believe only indicates the location of the concert. There's no reference to shopping.
But what is Broad Acres?
Broad Acres is a mall. The thing is, a facility within a shopping mall can provide live entertainment subject to live entertainment tax by our statute. So just because a facility, just because it's a reference to a shopping mall, as stated as by an example, is a bar within a shopping mall is going to be subject to live entertainment tax because it's a facility within a shopping mall.
Okay, it's just, I'm an appraiser, not an attorney, but it appears to me that we're reading between the lines here instead of.
Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion if you're ready to entertain that.
No.
Not
yet.
Okay. Apparently we've got some more questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask another couple of questions of the state. It seems like the decision's based on a lot of assumptions. We're assuming the intent of people, assuming it based on how much they've paid, just assuming what the primary purpose was based on what's incidental or what became incidental and somehow that evolves over. But it seems to me in the decision of the attorney, of the administrative law judge, they recognize that there's some gray area here. They eliminated the penalties, if I understand correctly. And that at least was recognizing that they could have somewhat of a detrimental reliance argument, although not waiving the tax and interest. Is that why the penalties were waived?
November 13th. Okay, I don't believe that the penalties were waived, Commissioner. No.
I thought I had read that or it was suggested that they be waived. I'm not sure.
You did?
No, I believe there may have been discussion as to if Broad Acres pays within a certain amount of time, penalty may be waived, but it wasn't waived outright.
Can you cite where that is?
It would be final decision at page 14.
It's page 939 of the PDF.
I'm sorry, of the 939?
Right, 939 of the first PDF, the 971 page PDF, not the 5,000 page one.
So for clarification, what my notes have is that the ALJ upheld the redetermination dated 11/13/20 contingent on Broad Acres payment of the LET in full within 30 days of the decision. 3/11/22, the penalty shall be waived.
But isn't that stayed because of an appeal?
It is not stated, Commissioner.
Well, I'll wait for the motion that was about to be made, but I don't think that penalties should be applicable because they did have a decision letter. The decision letter said nothing about there being any indication that if you charge more, you should have a heads up that you're evolved into a facility. I mean, I think that there's enough gray area there that at least the penalties should be waived in the decision, but that's where I'll leave it.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one opportunity to just rebut a couple of issues here to make the record clear.
Can you make them brief, please?
As I can. Again, the problem here is that there is a lot of supposition. There is a lot of conclusionary statements that is not backed up by evidence. I'm just going to give you one quick example. Counsel for the state during the hearing tried to introduce a photograph of the stage area. It wasn't authenticated as to when or where it was, but tried to elicit testimony from the witness that the number of people standing by the stage somehow showed the intent of the people at the thing. Hearing officer sustained that objection that I made and says, I don't know if you can tell the intent of the shoppers just from photos. And that's the problem here. We can't, there is a bright line here. I agree with Commissioner. There is a bright line here. And that bright line is that there were a lot of vendors there, 300 to 600, not just around the stage area. There were a lot of vendors there. There were a lot of patrons there, way more than this 750 seating capacity and maybe the 100 standing by the side. There were thousands of participants and customers there during that time frame. And if you look at that critical language of primary purpose, you can't say that the primary purpose of 4,000 people or 3,000 people showing up to a facility and maybe paying a little more than they would pay during the day. Evidence is that this is in fact not the primary purpose. That their primary purpose of all those people to be there was just for the music. The evidence just isn't there. The only evidence was deduced was the people that were actually on site. No witnesses were ever produced from the tax department that said how many people were there, how many vendors were there. The whole audit started with Mr. Lindley telling in his audit report saying that he thinks he was informed that there were only 40 vendors there. That's just not true. The general manager and her assistant were there and they testified as to the number of vendors there. So I think there is a bright line. If you had 1,000 people there and you had 20 vendors, maybe food vendors and maybe a couple of other vendors around the stage area, it would be a good argument. But you can't make that jump to that primary purpose decision based on these kind of speculative facts and conclusionary statements. It's just not there. You just can't reach, I just don't see how you can reach that conclusion that it was not the primary purpose to shop when you've got that many people out there shopping, that many vendors there in the facility.
All right, thank you very much.
I'd like to just state for the record, Chairman, that there is much discussion about the department's burden of proof. And it is actually not the department's burden of proof to prove that the deficiency was invalid or that the ALJ's decision was invalid. The burden of proof, it remains and always is on the taxpayer.
And I think we've carried that burden with actual numbers that were introduced as to the people that were there at the time. And there's no ticket. You don't get a ticket when you go to this concert. You get
Okay, thank you. We're kind of going back and forth the same information now. So if you have anything specific you want to say that we haven't heard, feel free. Okay, any other questions?
There were some questions about the ticket, and there's no ticket to a concert that's part of this deal. There's some advertisements that relate to who's going to be playing that night. It's at Broadacres Market. But you don't get a ticket that says this is your ticket to enter into the concert. You get a wristband that says Broadacres on it.
Okay, great.
If you're in there, you're free to do whatever you want.
Thank you. Commissioner Lippman?
Are you ready to entertain a motion, Chairman?
I am. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Thank you. I commend the lawyers on both sides of this matter, but I would like to make a motion to uphold the ALJ's decision. However, I do agree with Commissioner Byram that we want to encourage taxpayers to go and seek, not all taxpayers though, but taxpayers when they have some concern and are planning their business on a going forward basis. However, the letter from the executive director, Dion Contine, certainly was focused on just the facts and circumstances presented. And I agree with Attorney Gabriel that Commissioner Byram eloquently described the evolution of this business. And I applaud this business for evolving and for encouraging more business. But I'll uphold the ALJ's decision. However, I would like to abate the penalties assessed because I think that there's reasonable cause for that abating from an equitable perspective.
I would second that, Commissioner Byram.
How about the interest?
The interest from my perspective is the time value of money. And so I think that this business has had the time value of the money. So I think the interest should be assessed. The department has not had the money during this time.
Okay, very good. So I've got a motion, and was that a second?
Yes.
Motion is second.
Commissioner, I have a question of Commissioner Lippman.
Yes.
I believe that the ALJ's decision does say that the penalties shall be waived so long as the tax is paid within 30 days of the date of the decision. Are you eliminating the contingency on payment within 30 days?
No, I support that contingency. So I was somewhat confused because we've gotten a statement that the penalties were not waived. And I thought the penalties were waived as well.
I think the problem is I don't think a payment was made.
Oh, so the time period has lapsed is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, I would like to resurrect the waiver.
Okay.
Rosalie Bordelov, for the record, can you just clarify, are you resurrecting it to say that 30 days from the date of, from today's date, from the date of your decision now, if this motion passes, they'd be waived if it's paid within 30 days of now? Is that essentially what you're saying?
Commissioner Byram, input?
Yes, I would say that.
Okay, thank you. So yes, we are saying that, Ms. Boardlove.
And I second the updated motion.
Okay. we
Thank
got
you,
a motion,
Commissioner Bursey.
An update, an update for the discussion. Seeing none, I'll say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 12 o'clock, but we don't have much left to go. So we just keep pushing forward.
It's 11, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're in California.
My
Arizona.
computer says 12, so it's 12 o'clock and we're done. Yeah, we can be gone.
I think we need a break.
We can probably.
One
need
more
that.
matter.
We better break.
We need,
I'll break.
we need a 5-minute
I
break.
can stay.
Okay.
5-minute break.
Okay.
5-minute break.
What's your
Minutes.
Or no, I took it back. Took me a second. Yeah, it's. Maybe what number to look for. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we'll go back on the record. Director Hughes?
Yes, the next item is item 5B, consideration to appoint Chris Carrillo, Audit Manager, as a delegate to the Streamlined Sales Tax Agreement Governing Board pursuant to NRS 360B.110 subsection 5. And I will be presenting that item.
Okay, please go ahead.
So the department is requesting approval of the appointment of Chris Carrillo as a delegate representing the state of Nevada to the Streamlined Sales Use Tax Agreement Governing Board. Chris is an audit manager in Las Vegas, and Chris is currently at the table. The state of Nevada is allowed up to 4 delegates, and currently with the retirement of Terry Upton, we have 3 delegates. I am one of those delegates. Guy Childers, who is a tax manager for the department, is another one of those delegates. And then we also have Senator Dina Neal as a delegate. So to provide some background on this request, the state of Nevada is a full member of the Streamlined Sales Tax Governing Board as of April 1st, 2008. The Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Agreement was developed over the course of several years through the joint effort of over 40 states to participate in the Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Project. Today, 23 states are full members of the Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Agreement. The purpose of this agreement is to simplify and modernize the administration of sales and use tax laws of the member states in order to facilitate multi-state tax administration and reduce the burden of compliance. The agreement does not override state laws. However, the state must comply with the requirements contained in the agreement to be a member state under Article 8 of the agreement. The Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Agreement applies to the state and local sales and use taxes collected by retailers. Chapter 360B in the NRS contains provisions for implementation of the agreement. As a delegate, Chris will participate in Streamline meetings and participate in several Streamline committees, such as the State and Local Advisory Council, the Certification Committee, and the Audit Committee. Additionally, the agreement requires that each state complete a certificate of compliance annually, which identifies the various requirements contained in the Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Agreement, which the state must comply. The state provides its answers, explanations, and reference to laws, rules, regulations, and written policies to demonstrate that it is in compliance with each of these requirements. The agreement also requires that each state complete a taxability matrix annually. The certificate of taxability matrix identifies each of the definitions and tax administration practices adopted by the governing board, in which each state must follow. The state indicates the tax treatment of each of the items identified in the matrix, along with reference to the applicable law, rule, regulation, or written policy. As I previously mentioned, Chris is currently an audit manager for the department. He is familiar with our audit processes as well as the sales and use tax law. And if appointed, he will be responsible for completing both these documents and attending the various meetings for Streamlined Sales and Use Tax. Unless the commission has any questions on the request, we ask that the commission appoint Chris Carrillo as a delegate to the Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Governing Board.
Very good, thank you. Any questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Witt, so moved.
Second, Commissioner Brown.
I have a motion and a second for the discussion.
Quick question. Are we out of compliance with Streamline because the National Guard issue, or are we back in compliance?
We are currently still out of compliance. However, the department is bringing forth a bill, Senate Bill 50, that will be submitted to the legislature to bring us back into compliance.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is that to remove the exemption then?
The bill itself will not remove the exemption. However, how you apply for that exemption will change. So instead of putting the burden on vendors to provide products tax-free, the consumer will need to come to us with their letter of exemption. We'll still provide a letter of exemption to the National Guard, but they have to bring it to us along with their receipt during that 3-day weekend, the Nevada Day weekend, and we will provide a refund of the sales tax paid.
A lot of administrative work. Huh?
It really is.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in
Commissioner
favor?
Lippman just says you have big shoes to fill, but thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Chris, and good luck. God bless.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Hughes?
The next item is item 6, informational items. The department provided penalty and interest waivers granted by the department for sales and use tax, modified business tax, and excise tax. And we also provided the approval and denial status report log for organizations created for religious, charitable, or educational purposes to the commission for informational purposes.
Okay. Any questions on the informational items? Director Hughes?
All right, the next item is my briefing to the commission. Our new Governor Joe Lombardo, was sworn into office on January 2nd. Governor Lombardo reappointed me as the executive director to the department on January 6th. Since taking office, Governor Lombardo has released 4 executive orders. 2 of them have a direct impact on the Department of Taxation. The first executive order is 2023-002, which provides that all state agencies must develop a plan to ensure that the state workers return to pre-pandemic normal and customary office conditions by July 1st, 2023. The executive team is currently working on a transition plan to bring those staff members that are working from home back into the office. The next executive order is 2023-003, which orders a freeze on the issuance of new regulations and requires a review of existing regulations by all executive branch agencies, departments, boards, and commissions. Pursuant to the order, on or before May 1st, the department will provide a report to the governor's office detailing how our regulations can be streamlined, clarified, reduced, or otherwise improved to ensure that those regulations provide for the general welfare of the state. As part of the report, the department is required to provide a list of not less than 10 regulations recommended for removal, and we need to rank them in order of priority. Another section of the order provides that no new regulations shall be proposed, approved, or acted upon until the executive order is rescinded, unless the proposed regulation falls under one of the 6 exemptions listed in the order. If the proposed regulation qualifies for an exemption, the department is required to submit a report to the governor's office identifying the exemption that applies and detail the problem the regulation addresses and why it cannot be solved by other forms. The department is currently working on this order. We are performing a comprehensive review of our regulations, and we will be working on the required report. Prior to submitting the report, we will be bringing the report to the commission for a public hearing with key industry stakeholders to solicit input on changes and identify any other regulatory changes. And then this input will be included in the report. I also wanted to make the commission aware of several important events. The State of the State is tonight at 6 p.m. in the Assembly Chamber of the Legislative Building in Carson City. A legislative session begins on February 6th and will end on June 5th. And then the department's annual report was delivered to the governor prior to January 15th as required by statute. If you'd like to see a copy of the report, please let me know and I can have Tina send you a digital copy, or you can find the report on our website. And that concludes my briefing.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the briefing?
I was going to ask how you were going to be able to accomplish that edict with the regulations, but it sounds like you were able to handle it with existing staff.
I believe so. We're working with the Attorney General's office, so they will assist us as well.
Okay, great. Okay.
Pretty tight
Yes.
framework that you're going to have to work with.
Especially with legislative session.
And I'm not sure, I know you and I have talked about it, I'm not sure that everybody realizes that, getting rid of regulations might be a good idea, but it takes as much work to get rid of a regulation as it does to enact one. So good luck is all I can say.
Thank you.
Okay, our next meeting is going to be March 6th. And we're down to public comment. Any public comment in Las Vegas? Nobody's in Las Vegas. Any comment on the phone or Zoom? Any comment in Reno? Very good. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.